everybody, Brian Zane here. Happy 2022.
Yes.
Happy New Year. Jay Biggs is with me, and we just finished watching day one on the Peacock, on Peacock there. Jay, gut reaction, what did you think of the first pay-per-view of the year?
You know what? It was switched up a little bit, but it wasn't bad. There was nothing, I didn't think there was anything bad on the show. Let's just say that.
One thing I thought was very interesting, you hear it right away, and then it just keeps happening, is that they've rebranded these shows. They're not pay-per-views anymore. They're premium live events.
Finally!
People have been saying, oh, they haven't really been pay-per-views for a long time.
Right.
They've been streaming through the network, so it's not the same concept. So it is a new name. It's going to take a lot of getting used to, I think. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well,
Right.
I would say, as pay-per-view. And also the initials don't look as nice.
Yeah, exactly.
you have an expectation, you have a memory, you know what PPV stands for.
Right.
So I guess you have to get used to it.
That'll be a way for us to age wrestling fans in like 30 years.
Oh yeah, where were you when it changed over?
Yeah.
Exactly. The big breaking news that happened just before the show was that the Universal Champion Roman Reigns tested positive for COVID, and Brock Lesnar was added to the WWE Championship match, that four-way. Jay, I can't believe it. Well, actually, I can believe that it took less than a week for the nightmare scenario to happen from the date it was first reported that the company was not doing COVID testing anymore to the guy everyone was afraid of getting COVID in that environment getting COVID.
Right, like worst case scenario, absolutely.
Unbelievable. Like, that's exactly what everyone was afraid of happening.
Oddly enough, I did mention, between us here that we're watching that, like, the Usos were on the pay-per-view, so I guess family dinner didn't happen this year at Christmas.
Right. I mean, that is so strange to me, where it's like, okay, if Roman, it's like, I mean, obviously, I don't know, people can get in contact with people who have COVID and not get it, so it's like,
right.
Hey, that's lucky, I guess, but I was kind of surprised that some people were still, like, here for everything.
Yeah, and this also shows, too, I would suppose, anyways, that even though WWE stopped their testing, that, they're actually doing testing, some of the superstars themselves at home.
Self-testing, yeah.
Yeah,
so, yeah, that's crazy stuff. It's like, it's kind of similar to what happened when Drew McIntyre got COVID last year when he was the champion. Although it didn't happen right on a pay-per-view. Like, the timing really couldn't have been crazier. I mean, what a wild way to start this year off with an announcement like that. So the show begins, the Smackdown tag title match, as the Usos defend against the New Day. And Jay, I mean, it was a match with the New Day and the Usos. You've seen them before.
Oh, yeah, I have.
They've always been good. They've always been great athletic contests and everything. Lots of drama. This one's no different.
When they're going to wrestle, I say this on all the reviews, it is what it is. They're going to have a good match.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not angry that they're going to have a good match, but I'm ready for new things.
Right.
That's all.
I feel we've been saying that for a while now, but they
Right.
keep circling back to that.
And Xavier's supposed to be like a breakout singles guy right now, too. What's he doing in tag team title situations? I don't know. It just...
Yeah, the whole King of the Ring thing really, it's when you think about the trajectory he's been on since then, it's just like, what was the point of it? Except, to fulfill that bucket list thing and give him the King of the Ring. One of the biggest moments here was Kofi absorbing the double super kick and the double splash to kick out.
Yes, he did.
That was very high drama near the end. We get the face-off after that, and the This Is Awesome chants and whatnot. I think the biggest surprise was the Usos winning with a 3D. Like, that was like, okay, out of nowhere,
And they even called it a 3D.
Called it by the name. Random. That was different, I guess. So, I'll give this one 3.5 stars out of 5. Jay, what about you?
I think 3.5 is actually... I was going to go with 3, but I think now I think about it, because the crowd was really... Here's the thing. Throughout the whole entire night, crowd was hot. They stayed hot, except for maybe a couple entrances. But other than that, that's it,
Yeah, and I think, they helped as well. The crowd was definitely involved in this. It's like I said, a great match, fine, but it's like, we've already seen it. So, I mean, I can't say it's like I had to give it a higher rating. It's just like,
right.
It's, like Jay said, it's time for something new. Like, please, for God's sake, can we kind of beef up the tag division? Again, these are great, but, spoiled with riches here. We get backstage interview with Big E. We hear from everyone involved in the main event tonight. He says, bring everyone on. Your Seths, your Bobbys, your Beasts. Then we see Migos interviewed backstage. Now, Jay, I know that you're a huge fan of theirs, one of your favorite acts. Like, were you excited to see them on the show?
I was, kind of. I mean, like, I have a 15 and a 17-year-old kid, so I can't avoid the Migos,
Yeah.
It's like that. But, if anybody knows me, they know I have my subs in my car, and you can hear me coming from a long ways away, and it's usually the Migos or something like that playing.
Were you kind of surprised they didn't do a performance? I was kind of...
That's why I was under the impression they were going to do a performance at day one. Maybe they did after or before the show or something? I don't know.
You have the assumption that, if the musical act's there, then they're going to do something. We've been kind of conditioned to do that. So, I don't know. Guess we didn't have that and just kept the action moving right along, I guess.
Well, if that was confusing, their placement, which we'll talk about momentarily, was even more confusing.
Let's go to our next match. Drew McIntyre versus Madcap Moss. And we've got Madcap and Happy Corbin doing a bit. A lot of dad jokes. I have to say, though, I give a little smirk when Madcap called him Who McIntyre. Like, yeah, that was solid.
Who McIntyre.
This match was way more competitive than it had any right to be, Jay.
The only thing I can think is because of them having to stretch out time because of Lesnar and Reigns.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can think of because, it should have technically been a squash. But, if they are eventually going to build up Madcap in any way, shape, or form, at least they kept him looking strong. This was the best Madcap Moss match I can ever remember seeing.
The best Riddick Moss match I've ever seen. Even better than the Riddick regimen in NXT.
Oh, wow.
This was, it was a fine match. I gave it 2.5 stars out of 5. It was a fine match. I think that, Madcap looked great in it, but it's one of those things where this match shouldn't have been that long when you consider where Drew was in the pecking order, compared to where Madcap is and everything. Then we get a backstage bit later in the show where Drew's jumped by Corbin and Moss. They Pillmanize his neck. My one question, my thought running through this was, why didn't he have the sword?
Yeah, where was the sword?
I guess that's Drew being written off for a bit, and that seems to be segueing into a Drew Corbin storyline. It doesn't feel like it's got legs for Mania.
He'll be back at the Rumble.
Yeah. We hear from Kevin Owens, who talks about how Lesnar's a bully for beating up his soulmate, his best friend Sami Zayn. I love that. Up next, a match for the Raw Tag Titles as RK Bro defend against the Street Profits. The crowd loved it. The crowd loved Migos there. They love RK Bro.
Street Profits did kind of have to heel it up a little bit.
They were pretty heelish in this one. I mean, they had the aggression from Montez Ford in this thing.
Yeah.
But you also had some silly stuff from him, too. He comes in the ring, does a little dance, and cuts to Randy Orton looking totally nonplussed by it.
Right, and you were just hoping. You were like, come on, please dance, please dance.
I mean, you kind of want to see him do something in response. Riddle taking a lot of the heat in this one. It's, like I said, weird seeing the Street Profits work. It's probably the most heelish they've been since ever. I'm trying to remember if they debuted in NXT as heels, because that would have been the only time, I think, if
I don't know,
all.
But I could see them being more serious now with the heel gimmick.
Yeah.
But at the end, they didn't turn anyway, so
right.
it didn't matter.
Orton with a hot tag, He's a House of Fire, the double drape over DDT, and Migos, who are at ringside, who are protected by a velvet rope as well for some reason.
They're the VIP section.
They're very happy about what they saw there. How do you think the announcers feel? They don't get a velvet rope around their table, and they're right next to him. It's like, what are we? What are we, chopped liver over here?
I guess so.
Riddle launching forward into the air. Orton hitting the RKO on the way down to win. That's all she wrote. RK Bro retain. We have sportsmanship. Then they hang on that shot with Migos and the two teams in there for what feels like a very long time. The announcers have laid out, and it's just
right.
Is an angle going to happen?
Well, ATL is Migos' hometown, so I think what it is they were just playing up to the town and letting the stars do their thing. But
soaking it up, yeah.
I will say, I was kind of surprised. I thought Montez Ford was going to hit that huge frog splash into an RKO to finish the match.
That would be some impressive timing. But we had that. Didn't we have that match on Raw recently where he did that to Ford or somebody? He caught somebody on a splash on the way down. I'm trying to remember.
No, it wasn't Ford, because I don't think this is their first time working each other, right?
Is it? Okay, someone's going to make us...
Yeah,
someone's going to tell us in the comment section.
Just because I watch and review Raw does not mean I have some sort of shelf with a brain area that's remembering every little
The Mind
match.
Palace has a quick refresh rate, let's just say. I give it 3.5 stars. What do you think?
The match itself and everything together, I would have to say 3.5 is perfect. Yeah, that's...
Brock Lesnar interviewed backstage. He steals a line from his buddy Paul Heyman where he says he's going to win the championship and say it's not a prediction, it's a spoiler. Up next, Edge versus The Miz in the grudge match. I thought it was impressive they showed Miz and Maurice doing the pose and the kiss on three sides of the ring. I thought they were going to do the whole circle around there.
Right.
And they were holding on for a very long time. And then you see, here's why they did it, because they had to set up Edge's special Brood entrance with the Ring of Fire, which looked cool, but I'm like, why? Why they do it again? I felt like SummerSlam when he did it with Seth was perfect. And now it just feels like, is there a rhyme or a reason for this?
Well, it's like Chris, our friend of the channel, was watching with us earlier. Yeah. It's like I said to him, I'm like, I feel like that should be when he's really ultra pissed or something, and he's like, oh, what do you mean, the demon, version? I'm like, yeah, I actually do kind of, I feel like when he gets that angry, he has to go back to his past with the Brood.
Well, he busts that out as things get serious, because Seth made it personal in that storyline, so it's why are you doing it now for The Miz? Maybe it's because it's preceded by the Brood bath, the former Blood bath. It's like, this is the hint that I'm going to come out with the Brood entrance the next pay-per-view.
Oh, maybe that's what we need to watch for. It's like Kane's pyro. He's going to lose if the pyro goes off before.
Edge and Miz work really well together here. I like the chemistry. It's one of like the better, cleaner matches on this show.
Absolutely.
Really appreciated that. There's this moment here where Edge is kind of like a big DDT off the apron onto the floor, which is really impressive.
Like his Impaler DDT.
It was kind of the Impaler, yeah. Kind of sits down with it too. Miz goes for the skull-crushing finale on the announce table. Edge counters it into something else where he just kind of like just pulls his hair down as he jumps down. It wasn't as effective.
There's a couple of those hair throws throughout the match.
Right. Miz has the figure 4 locked in. Edge reverses it. Miz goes for a pin on the ropes. The ref catches him, and then we get some more chicanery from Maurice, who's, just doing some sneaky stuff on the outside. Like, she gets Miz's foot on the ropes, and the referee looks right at her, too, when it happens.
Right.
It was pretty brazen. More sneakiness by the heels, skull-crushing finale, a kick-out, and then we get this moment where the camera cuts to an extreme close-up of who I thought was Becky Lynch at first from the hair, and you realize... It's Beth Phoenix, and
she's just staring, and then, like, you could count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3
1,000. It was so
1,000.
awkward. She just, like, stands there growling and snarling for the longest time, and we're waiting for something to happen, like she's going to run down. No, then they finally play her music.
I'm sorry, but
the crowd popped for that a lot more.
Here's what I feel like she is a victim of the production.
Yeah.
That's just my personal... I feel like the second they split to her, they should have started playing that music almost.
Yeah, or, like, don't have her stand there for as long as she was. Like, just have her, like, start walking.
Right.
Like, I don't know. It was a weird thing where, yeah, the production, like, could have acted a bit quicker on the draw. But Beth Phoenix shows up. We haven't seen her since she left the announce table at NXT, and she chases Maurice out of the arena and distracts The Miz, who walks right into a spear for the win by Edge. So we got the Beth Phoenix involvement.
No Omos, like I predicted.
No Omos. He's not the new henchman.
Omos.
And we didn't, we were kind of thinking that Miz would get the heat on this one and win, and that would set up Beth showing up. So they cut out the middleman and went right to Beth showing up.
Right.
Which, again, setting up, what seems to be some kind of like mixed tag for the Rumble possibly. But yeah, I thought the match was really good. I'm going to actually, I'm going to up my grade for it. I'm going to give it 4 stars out of 5. I think it was probably one of the better matches of the evening. Told a good story. These guys worked really well. And the finish was pretty entertaining as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. 4 stars out of 5 for this match. On this pay-per-view, it was darn good.
MVP speaking on behalf of Bobby Lashley backstage, saying that Lashley is the yin to Brock Lesnar's yang. And then we go to the Raw Women's Championship match. Becky Lynch defending against Liv Morgan. And Jay, can we talk about the goats on the coat?
Goats on the coat.
Goats on the coat.
What is it Corey Graves called it? Because he missed out on that opportunity.
Well, he said, the goats on her shoulders. I'm like, oh my God, you missed the rhyme.
Right.
Goats on a coat. That's all I'm asking for. Hashtag goats on a coat. Spread it like wildfire. That was amazing, though. But even more amazing than the goats on a coat was the match itself.
Yes, absolutely. I was blown away. This is, I said before, that was Liv Morgan's best match I've ever seen. This was Liv Morgan's best match I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, she continues to improve and get better, and I think that match, the first one we saw with them on Raw, that was good, but this was able to top that, and I think both of them did a really good job busting out some offense we haven't really seen from either of them.
Yeah.
That big sunset flip by Liv
the powerbomb,
onto Becky,
yeah.
the powerbomb thing out of the corner, that was really cool. And just like, I think Liv looked incredibly strong here. Like, when she had her runs, like, she had Becky on the ropes. It was...
she actually, I'll tell you right now, I actually enjoyed this match better than I did her and Charlotte. And,
oh, yeah.
and for different reasons, obviously, you had 2 stars, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a great match, and they've got this what's going on storyline, but this was actually good because it was a wrestling match.
Yeah, the one knock I have on this match is the referee had a really slow count. That, like, kind of took me out of it.
That referee's a little shady anyway.
Oh, yeah, she's the one who was the corrupt one for Sonya Deville,
yes.
Right? And they did nothing with that sense, so...
Well, maybe, here we are, day 1
this
again.
This was Sonya Deville was planting the seeds of influence.
No instance at the job since 0 days. Now 1.
We get, on day 1, we get this moment of revenge for Liv where she gets the stomps in the arm and the steps and stuff. I mean, this is probably the best, like, pure babyface performance I've seen in a long time, where and the crowd totally got into it. Really close call where she gets Becky in the rings of Saturn, but she gets the rope break.
Yes.
Becky blocks the Oblivion and hits the manhandle slam to win and retain. And, Jay, except for that finish being a bit anticlimactic,
yeah,
that was honestly one of my favorite matches of the night. I give it 4 stars out of 5. What about you?
I got to give it 4.5 out of 5 because here's why. It was probably my favorite wrestling match of the night.
I mean, like I said, the crowd was like so into it.
Yeah, no, they were, because I think everybody believed that there was an opportunity for Liv to win, and that's why the crowd gets into it. It's not like unbelievable, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I don't know.
She was all over. I mean, I think she really did like 70% of the work in that match. She was all over Becky. So it was one of those things where it's like, you feel like, okay, if not now, when? And so this feels like it gives her enough momentum to say, hey, in one more match, maybe she'll finally be able to do it. And so
third time's the charm, baby.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. It makes you think about the possibility of a third match down the line. Obviously not a rubber match, but it's like one more chance of redemption for Liv. And, color me sold on that idea. After this match, I'm definitely on board with that. We get a video of Johnny Knoxville, star of Jackass and assorted movies I don't remember, where he just acts in them. He announces he's going to be in the Royal Rumble match. So let's hope we get another Bad Bunny-esque or Pat McAfee-like performance.
Well, the Jackass,
Johnny Knoxville.
The Jackass guys were involved once before with Umaga.
Yeah, that was this is them trying to repeat that. It's like, okay, we missed our window before because Steve-O couldn't stop laughing at Umaga beating him up. So now
is he going to be number one? So if he's here, I'm sold on Knoxville in the Rumble. If he is, here's the only two ways: A, he's number one, and number two is Omos, or Omos clears everybody and he's waiting for somebody, and you get it's Johnny that comes out and Omos does something like throws him into the 7th row.
It's gonna be I think it's gonna be somewhere closer to the spectrum of Drew Carey more than, say, like Pat McAfee is where I'm kind of predicting it's going to go. Ugh. Like, I'm sure he's going to take his licks, but it's like, I don't think he's going to be much. It's going to be there for, like, the mainstream pop, I guess. But, like,
I mean, the guy had to have a Hot Wheel removed from his rectum. So, I mean, yes.
If he can do that, then by God, he can withstand 29 other Hot Wheels. I mean, other men in the ring.
Don't hold me. Maybe there was another guy in the crew or something, but I think it was him.
I don't know. Well, so anyway. See, now we got to fact check that.
Now we do. Somebody in the comments we already know it.
And they're going to be so fucking mean-spirited about it, too. How dare you get the wrong guy who had the Hot Wheel up his ass? Main event time. It's the WWE Championship Fatal 5-way. You've got Big E, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley, and Brock Lesnar as the new addition. I have to say, I mean, the video packages for the whole show were on fire, but I love the one for this one.
Yeah.
One, for their ability to incorporate Seth's laugh in at least 2 or 3 points in the music.
It should be in his music.
That was amazing. And then also for being able to just really cram in that addendum at the end where it's like Michael Cole, after he called the first 2 matches, rushes to the back, records this voiceover, and then they stamp that thing at the end. Say, oh, by the way, Brock Lesnar's in the match now, too. That was very good on them by production to squeeze that in there.
Let's throw a tweet up on there.
Yeah.
Voice over it.
The match begins with Lesnar suplexing the hell out of Rollins and KO multiple times. And you got Lashley and Big E fighting on the outside. Lashley spearing Lesnar through the barricade, getting that, OMG moment, as they call it. This match
great visual.
Brian Alvarez put it best calling this match a sprint, because that's what this felt like.
Yeah, you know what? That's funny you say that, because the match felt like it was 5 minutes. How long actually was it? Do you remember?
I have no idea, but yeah, with you, it definitely felt like it was a fast-paced match, because there was no time for nuance or build or story in this. It was just like, let's get
bunch
all
of
big
hosses
shit in
beating
here.
the crap out of each other.
Yeah, and the story is Rollins and KO. This is probably your biggest story in the match. The two of them working together to beat up Lesnar, beat up Lashley, and just really kind of work together as a team for a while. Big E smashing Lashley through an announce table. Big E blocking a KO splash, but then immediately takes a splash from Rollins, and it's a close kick out there. But yeah, the story I think of Kevin and Seth working together was, it was pretty well done there. Lesnar busting out 3 straight 5s, walks right into a Lashley spear, and a very close kick out.
Yeah, I thought it was almost...
Yeah, and by the way, how about just the visual of seeing Lashley and Lesnar finally in the ring together?
Boy. Yeah, that's been a long time coming.
And because, it feels kind of like, it's not, you don't get that one-on-one like you kind of wanted, but it's a nice little taste, a sample of it.
Right.
And so,
that's the match they've left open, though.
It's the one big Lesnar match I think that's left that I would love to see. is to see those two. And we've wanted it for so many years, and Lashley's campaigned on that for so many years now. And I would love to see that finally happen in a one-on-one thing. And this was like a good, like I said, little sample of what we saw there. Kind of like it builds up, plants the seeds for an actual match down the line. Big E breaks up the Hurt Lock, hits the big ending on Lashley. Brock with the F5 to Big E. Lesnar wins and is your new WWE champion after being a last-minute addition to the match.
It just happened so quick after that Hurt Lock because I was relishing that, man.
Yeah.
I wanted to see that so bad. Like, didn't know if Lesnar would be able to break it or what, and he didn't.
Again, the fact
didn't.
And the fact they did that as a big pivotal point. I mean, I didn't want to test the waters on that.
Yes.
The crowd was definitely into those interactions, so they'd be very foolish to not give us that match at some point in the future. Yeah, I'm gonna give this one 3.5 stars because it was a big beefy hoss fight just involving so many people and just bodies flying everywhere, and it's like it was kind of a shocking match in that sense. Lesnar is champion. What do you think?
I mean, it could be a good thing. There's talk of unifying the championships, I've heard recently. So I mean, maybe that's the upping of the ante for another Brock and Roman match.
Honestly, like.
And the Paul Heyman thing thrown in there.
Yeah,
there's all sorts of stuff.
It feels like you've kind of extended the shelf life of that storyline, and it does set up the chance of like, hey, assuming all is well with Roman and he's fine and they can get back to normal, then you could have that match on a bigger stage, and you could possibly unify the titles, which is like I wouldn't be against that. And
you could even do that at Mania, and it wouldn't be bad because you're unifying the belts, and you got two guys that are going to produce a great match. Now,
yeah, and I think also worth bearing in mind that when you have a situation like this where you have to change a match at the last minute, like their philosophy has always kind of been like you want to try and give the fans something bigger as kind of like a make good.
Right.
And so, I think you could argue that, whether or not, but I think that Lesnar walking away with the championship as kind of a last minute thing is kind of it's a shocking, it's a memorable thing, and I feel different. I'm gonna withhold judgment and see what happens because Lesnar's a babyface now.
Right. And that was kind of weird. Who would have ever seen that? 2022, Brock Lesnar, a babyface world champion, holding up the belt.
It was definitely interesting, and my one knock on it's like I can't believe they had Big E take the pin. Like, I think that you were even saying at the top of the show, Kevin Owens is taking the pin here. Like, he's the one for that. That didn't do Big E any favors because he already has kind of a lackluster reign, and we talked about why in the predictions video. But I think for him to just lose so resolutely to Lesnar like that, I think you could have had somebody else take that pin.
He got the breath taken out, like, well, not as bad as Bianca at SummerSlam, but jeez.
Man, what is Lesnar's obsession with the New Day? I just don't get it. It's like destroying their hopes and dreams.
Yeah, at least we already know the booking for King Xavier down the road.
It's a bit shocking. I hope that Big E can bounce back from this.
I'm going to give the match, personally, 4 out of 5 stars. I can't sit and watch something for an hour.
Yeah.
So I need to be very fast. And so this match kind of hit all my tingles, I guess you could say, as far as a wrestling fan.
All right.
Bunch of big dudes in there beating the crap out of each other. Quick. Finish out.
So that is our thoughts for day 1. There was a lot of drama in there that we did not expect to have happen. A lot of what ifs in this alternate timeline and everything.
I can't believe it, but I mean, I hope all the best for Roman, but I think that everything actually turned out better for the pay-per-view because of this little quirk in things.
It definitely added a twist. It added intrigue, for what it is. And also, again, it gets kind of the wheels turning for what you think might happen in the months to come, assuming all goes well. Jay, what letter grade would you give day 1?
All the matches were pretty just across the board. I'd say a C+.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that too. It's like, for me, it was, except for Lesnar at the end, the show was like nothing wholly remarkable. Like, matches were fine. Matches were good. That's the expectation and the standard that you come to expect is the pay-per-view matches are going to be very action-packed and they have, they will deliver. And I feel most of them did. Like, Drew versus Moss was like not a bad match. I just thought it was booked very odd given the people involved. And, Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan, I think, was probably my favorite match just in terms of a pure storytelling, wrestling, face versus heel standpoint.
Right.
I think that was my favorite performance of the show. And again, the shock value of Lesnar winning is like, hey, that's interesting. I know people have their reservations about Lesnar as champion. This feels like an interesting make good for the Lesnar Reigns match not happening.
Isn't it just odd how the tide turns on stuff? Because if we had been sitting here a year ago and saying the same thing about Lesnar, it would have been like, oh man, Rock's just coming in, destroying everybody.
I feel you wouldn't do this if you didn't have the idea of going back to Reigns for both the titles at Mania in mind. That to me seems to be the only logical reason that it's...
Well, if Rock's not showing up, what other match do they really have?
But what did you think of day one, folks? And give us your thoughts about all the things we saw on the show in the comment section. Johnny Knoxville entering the Rumble, Brock Lesnar winning the championship. For Jay Biggs, I'm Brian Zane, and we'll see you next time.